I'm Jeremy. Today's day 172 of reading. Today we're reading Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Let's get started. By the way, I have to switch spots. Just temporarily. Let's get started. We're on page 260. Harry streaked past Katie in the opposite direction, gazing around for a glint of gold and noticing that Cho Chang was tailing him closely. She was undoubtedly a very good flyer. She kept cutting across him, forcing him to change direction. "Show her your acceleration, Harry!" Fred yelled as he whooshed past in pursuit of a bludger that was aimed for Alicia. Harry urged the fireball forward as they rounded the Ravenclaw goalpost and Cho fell behind. Just as Katie succeeded in scoring the first goal of the match and the Gryffindor end of the field went wild, he saw it. The snitch was close to the ground, flitting near one of the barriers. Harry dived. Cho saw what he was doing and tore after him. Harry was speeding up, excitement flooding him. Dives were his specialty. He was 10 feet away. Then a bludger, hit by one of the Ravenclaw beaters, came pelting out of nowhere. Harry veered off course, avoiding it by an inch, and in those few crucial seconds, the snitch had vanished. There was a great ooh of disappointment from the Gryffindor supporters, but much applause for their beater from Ravenclaw end. George Weasley vented his feelings by hitting the second bludger directly at the offending beater, who was forced to roll over in midair to avoid it. Gryffindor leads by 80 points to 0. And look at that fireball go! Potter's really putting it through its paces now. See its turn? Chase Comet is no match for it. The fireball's precision balance is really noticeable in these long. Jordan, are you being paid to advertise fireballs? Get on with the commentary! Ravenclaw was pulling back. They had now scored 3 goals, which put Gryffindor only 50 points ahead. If Cho got the snitch before him, Ravenclaw would win. Harry dropped lower, narrowly avoiding a Ravenclaw chaser, scanning the field frantically. A glint of gold, a flutter of tiny wings. The snitch was circling the Gryffindor goalpost. Harry accelerated, eyes fixed on the speck of gold ahead. But just then, Cho appeared out of thin air, blocking him. "Harry, this is no time to be a gentleman!" Wood roared as Harry swerved to avoid a collision. "Knock her off her broom if you have to!" Harry turned and caught sight of Cho. She was grinning. The snitch had vanished again. Harry turned his fireball upward and was soon 20 feet above the game. And at the corner of his eye, he saw Cho following him. She decided to mark him rather than search for the snitch herself. All right then, if she wanted to tail him, she'd have to take the consequences. He dived again, and Cho, thinking he'd seen the snitch, tried to follow. Harry pulled out of the dive very sharply. She hurtled downward. She rose as fast as a balloon once more, and then saw it. For the 3rd time, the snitch was glittering way above the field at the Ravenclaw end. He accelerated so many feet below did Cho. He was winning, gaining on the snitch, with every pointing then distracted. "Oh!" screamed Cho, pointing down. Distracted, Harry looked down. 3 tall, black-hooded Dementors were looking up at him. He didn't stop to see. Plunging a hand down the neck of his robes, he whipped out his wand and roared, "Expecto Patronum!" Something silver-white, something enormous, erupted from the end of his wand. He knew it shot directly at the Dementors, but didn't pause to watch. His mind stood miraculously clear. He looked ahead. He was nearly there. He stretched out his hand, still grasping his wand, and just managed to close his fingers over the small, struggling snitch. Madame Hooch's whistle sounded. Harry turned around in midair and saw 6 scarlet blurs bearing down on him. Next moment, the whole team was hugging him so hard he was nearly pulled off his broom. Down below, he could hear the roars of Gryffindors in the crowd. "That's my boy!" Wood kept yelling. Alicia, Angelina, and Katie had all kissed Harry. Fred had him in a grip so tight, Harry felt as though his head would come off. In complete disarray, the team managed to make its way back to the ground. Harry got off his broom and looked up to see a gaggle of Gryffindor supporters sprinting onto the field. Ron in the lead. Before he knew it, he had been engulfed by the cheering crowd. "Yes!" Ron yelled, yanking Harry's arm in the air. "Yes, yes! Well done, Harry," said Percy, looking delighted. 10 galleons to me. Must find Penelope. Excuse me." "Good for you, Harry," roared Seamus Finnegan. "Ready, brilliant!" boomed Hagrid over the heads of the milling Gryffindors. "That was quite some patroness," said a voice in Harry's ear. Harry turned around to see Professor Lupin, who looked both shaken and pleased. "The mentors didn't affect me at all," Harry said excitedly. "I didn't feel a thing." "That would be because they weren't Dementors," said Professor Lupin. "Come and see." He led Harry out of the crowd until they were able to see the end of the field. "You gave Mr. Malfoy quite a fright," said Lupin. Harry stared. Lying in a crumpled heap on the ground were Malfoy, Crabbe, Goyle, and Marcus Flint, the Slytherin team captain, all struggling to remove themselves from long, black-hooded robes. It looked as though Malfoy had been standing on Goyle's shoulders. Standing over them, with an expression of the utmost fury on her face, was Professor McGonagall. "An unworthy trick!" she was shouting. "A lone and cowardly attempt to sabotage the Gryffindor's secret. Detention for all of you, and 50 points from Slytherin. I shall be speaking to Professor Dumbledore about this. Make no mistake. Here he comes now." If anything could have set the seal on Gryffindor's victory, it was this. Ron, who had fought his way through to Harry's side, bubbled up with laughter as they watched Malfoy fighting to extricate himself from the rope. Goyle's head still stuck inside it. "Come on, Harry," said George, finding his way over. "Party! Gryffindor common room, now!" "Right," said Harry, and feeling happier than he had in ages, he and the rest of the team led the way, still in their scarlet robes, out of the stadium and back up to the castle. It felt as though they had already won the Quidditch Cup. The party went on all day and well into the night. Fred and George Weasley disappeared for a couple of hours and returned with armfuls of bottles of butterbeer, pumpkin fizz, and several bags full of honeydew sweets. "How did you do that?" scolded Angelina Johnson as George started throwing peppermint toads into the crowd. With a little help from Moody, Wormtail, Patfoot, and Prongs," Fred muttered into Harry's ear. Only one person wasn't joining in the festivities. Hermione, incredibly, was sitting in a corner, attempting to read an enormous book entitled Home Life and Social Habits of British Muggles. Harry broke away from the table where Fred and George had started juggling butterbeer bottles and went over to her. "Did you even come to the match?" he asked her. "Of course I did," said Hermione in a strangely high-pitched voice, not looking up. "And I'm very glad we won, and I think you did really well, but I need to read this by Monday." "Come on, Hermione, come and have some food," Harry said, looking over at Ron and wondering whether he was in a good enough mood to bury the hatchet. "I can't, Harry. I've still got 422 pages to read," said Hermione, now sounding slightly hysterical. Anyway, she glanced over at Ron, too. "He doesn't want me to join in." There was no arguing with this, as Ron chose that moment to say loudly, if Scabbers hadn't just been eaten, he could have had some of those fudge flies. He used to really like them. Hermione burst into tears. Before Harry could say or do anything, she took the enormous book under her arms and, still sobbing, ran toward the staircase to the girls' dormitories and out of sight. "Can't you give her a break?" Harry asked Ron quietly. "No," said Ron flatly. "If she just acted like she was sorry, but she'll never admit she's wrong. Hermione, still acting like Scamper has gone on vacation or something." The Gryffindor party ended only when Professor McGonagall turned up in her tartan dressing gown and hairnet at 1 in the morning, and to insist that they all go to bed. Harry and Ron climbed the stairs to their dormitory, still discussing the match. At last, exhausted, Harry climbed into bed, twitched the hangings of his four-poster shut block